This is Pastoring in the Digital Parish, your resource and point of connection for building digital ministry strategy and bringing your congregation into the digital age. Hi, my name is Ryan Dunn. I'm a digital communicator, church volunteer, ordained clergy person, host of this here podcast, and future of church enthusiast. And welcome back to the podcast. Season 6 is now officially underway. And we're kicking it off by doing one of our favorite things, really, telling the story of a digital ministry in action. In this case, we're talking with a couple of the visionaries and planners behind Harbor United Methodist Church, a currently all digital church plant located in Georgia, but of course, available all across the interwebs as well. In this episode, we're talking with Reverends Jessica Blackwood and Orlando Evans, and we're going to talk about planning for digital community, engaging in digital outreach, online community building, and community rhythm. So stay tuned for the story of Harbor United Methodist Church. I could use a favor from you in the meantime. Ratings and reviews help the prestige of this podcast, meaning that they make it more visible to both listeners and prospective guests. So if you are appreciative of what we're doing on Pastoring in the Digital Parish, tell us by leaving a rating and review on your podcast listening platform of choice. Thank you so much. And this particular meaningful episode of Pastoring in the Digital Parish is brought to us by Safer Sanctuaries. Safer Sanctuaries Nurturing Trust Within Faith Communities is a new and comprehensive resource that continues the tradition of Safe Sanctuaries ministry by building on its trusted policies and procedures. So to learn more about that, go to safersanctuaries.org, or you can call them at 1-800-972-0433. Hey, let me tell you about our adjunct professors for this session. Reverend Jessica Blackwood serves in the Center for Congregational Excellence of the North Georgia Conference of the United Methodist Church as a digital ministry specialist, and she helps churches create sacred spaces within digital spaces. Pretty relevant, I'd say. And Reverend Orlando Evans is a former online pastor and current lead pastor, which includes online responsibilities as well, at Bright Star United Methodist Church in Douglasville, Georgia. And he's one of the key visionaries for founding Harbor United Methodist Church, which is our key topic in this session of Pastoring in the Digital Parish. Well, we're joined by Reverends Jessica Blackwood and Orlando Evans. How are you both? Reverend Jessica, let's start with you. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm actually doing this from Colorado, and there's a huge mountainscape outside that is gorgeous. So I am excellent today.
Nice. All right. So as we catch you staring out the window every now and then, we know the reason behind it. I get it.
Yes, maybe.
I gotcha. And how are you doing so far today, Reverend Orlando?
Absolutely delightful. Honored to be in great company and having a wonderful discussion. So it's a great day.
Great. Well, we want to share the story of the Harbor United Methodist Church. And let's start with the big meta overall picture. What is the Harbor United Methodist Church?
So that's a great question, Ryan, that we wrestled with for a couple of months of what is this going to be that
Okay.
we're trying to create here, and how can we get that down to just a few sentences? Basically, what the Harbor United Methodist is a new online church plant that is part of the North Georgia Conference. And so it is a mix of online and eventually it will be where we meet in person, where we have some service opportunities. And so we're really excited about the potential for what's to come.
Cool.
Yeah, and one of the things Jessica mentioned was the eventual evolution for this to be more of a hybrid connection where we not only worship online together, but we will identify things like service projects in communities or opportunities to do meetups, launching small groups where we can connect online, but then maybe do some social things in person. So it's an evolving ministry that we're excited about, that we look to engage people across a huge geographic footprint.
So right now, the Harbor is strictly digital?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep. It is strictly digital right now. It's just a way for us to begin to let people know that we're here to be good neighbors. So in church planning world, we don't do parachute drop churches anymore. We take time to get to know the community. And so basically that's what we're doing. We're getting to know our community, but in the online space. So we're knocking on people's doors just a little bit differently. We're knocking on your Instagram account instead.
Well, tell me about that. Like, what does door knocking look like in the digital world? How are you engaging in that in a practical sense?
Yeah, it is a lot of digital partnership, a lot of cross sharing, because the Harbor is connectional in nature. We are connecting with other local churches. We're sharing the good work that they're doing. We're letting people know, hey, if you're with us, but you live in this area, check out what this church is doing here. Sometimes it's sharing some of our pastors' prayers. It just is a lot of sharing right now of celebrating what other people are doing so that they know that we are here to be good neighbors, that we're not just here to be in your space for the sake of being in your space, but that we want to invite you into our space as well.
And one of the ways that we physically did that is once we had a digital footprint, we started reaching out to members of our network, whether it's other churches or other colleagues, and inviting them to follow us. And we followed them back. And a lot of times, our team then shared inspirational quotes or scriptures. And to give a line of sight as to who we were as a community, we thought it would be a great idea to invite the broader community to journey with us during the Lenten season. We did something a little different. We huddled around a campfire on Ash Wednesday. We imposed ashes on one another. We read scripture, and we had dialogue with one another that we posted online and invited the online community to respond and share their heart and thoughts. And then we invited them to journey with us during a Lenten Bible study, again, to foster connection. And it was a combination of a local church partnering with the Harbor to offer broader reach and a wider net of engagement and encouragement.
Yeah, that's exciting to me in the way that it's drawn together, I guess, a broader sense of leadership across the church. As you were doing that Lenten study, was it like a different pastor from a different church who would take charge of every week in presenting a study module?
Yeah, so we used Amplify Media as our base, and then we had one pastor who did it for the whole time, and she has been on vacation. So another one's coming, plug there, that another one's coming soon whenever she gets back.
Yeah.
But we've had 5 different churches that were a part. I think 5. It may have been 4, but we had 4 or 5 churches that were a part of it that we just reached out and said, hey, we're doing this Zoom Bible study. If you'd like to be a part, here's the registration link and you can connect. And so it ended up being a really fun, successful first start that it was something that we were immediately able to measure as this is a need. And so that was really neat to see right from the start that the Bible study landed. Another thing, Ryan, you did the Rethink Church photo a day. Wasn't that you?
Yeah.
So we invited people
I'm involved in that, yes.
Yes. So we invited people to take a picture and share, and we didn't do it every day, but sometimes people would upload their photos, and so we would do some cross-sharing. And so that was some of the ways, too, that we are inviting people to be partners or community or neighbors, is just that crossover. Here's a hashtag, share it, let us know you're here, type thing.
Yep. And that really opened the gateway to our engagement. We recognized that the Lenten Ash Wednesday service would be a pre-launch, and we knew that we would have a formal launch on Easter. But for the weeks that were in between, members of our team offered inspirational homilies, 2 to 3 minute clips that we posted on social media platforms. And we again invited the digital community to dialogue and engage with us. So this was very helpful in making sure that we gave an opportunity for different pastors and different speakers to be present. And again, as we were sharing with our immediate circles, our sphere of influence increased as you had multiple people exposing what the Harbor is to their broader network. And so when Easter came, there was a good level of awareness that once we got into a weekly routine, we began to see people being consistently supportive.
Okay. And Jessica, how long has the Harbor been quote unquote live?
So the Harbor has been live. We started, like Orlando said, we started Ash Wednesday. That was our first release of a service. And then we started Easter, and our goal is to release services now weekly to the end of time. We are live now, and it has been a huge learning process so far. The Harbor started out as a church to be a landing place, a safe place for those who are finding themselves in disaffiliation. And in North Georgia, we took a pause on that. And so that really gave us an opportunity to do a little bit of transition work, to create content for people who are finding themselves away from the church for whatever reason, who have experienced some type of trauma. And so we're being very intentional about how we're releasing content. We're going a little bit slower than is not. It is difficult for me to go slow. It's difficult. I have a team full of creatives who love to go fast. So we have been very intentional about going at a rate that is sustainable for us. And so right now that's creating the weekly services that show on, where we live stream it Thursday evening, and we're going to try Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, especially as we're getting into the summertime. We know that a lot of people are going to be at the lake and they're going to be at the ball field, and we want to meet them where they are. And so you can take us, and before the ball game even starts, you can worship with us for 20 minutes. And then, it may be helpful for some parents to have 20 minutes of Jesus before their kid starts playing ball.
And Orlando, you have a background as both a digital pastor and as a lead pastor in, I guess, a more traditional or analog church, or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is these days. As you were advising the Harbor team, were there certain unnegotiables or certain ideas or formats or technologies that you were like, look, as we're starting, like, this has to be included?
Oh, good question, Ryan.
We did a we did a great job of brainstorming approaches and where we wanted to be present. But one of the most significant things to call out is the fact that with the Harbor, we're broadcasting live for two of our experiences. When I say broadcasting live, we're streaming it, but we're having someone to serve as an online pastor or online host at the moment of broadcast. And that's important because people that are looking for a church community expect to be communal. So it's one thing to come in and observe worship streaming, and it's a whole nother thing to participate in worship by being able to dialogue or pray with someone or chat back and forth, or even affirm some of the things that are being said by the people who are singing or speaking. And so I'm glad that our team was able to introduce someone to host during the two times that we formally broadcast as our streaming times. But then for people who don't join us live, there's an opportunity for them to view us on YouTube on demand. So those were that was the biggest thing, in my opinion, that would be most critical, making sure that the people who are searching or looking for that connection actually have someone that they can connect with during that time.
Okay. So it's not just record it, post it, forget it.
Right. No, it's being in dialogue. And then there's another thing that was also important, which we were very intentional to do. And that was making sure that we injected diverse voices and faces into the process. We wanted to make sure that we had a diverse group of people in terms of race and ethnicity, in terms of men and women, also age diversity. And if you look at the people who've been supporting us in terms of the content contributors who have been our speakers or the people who are involved in roundtable discussions, we've been very successful in engaging a team of people who look like the world. And of course, there's always more opportunities to do that, but it was important for our presentation to not just look one way, all, Black men or all white women or all Latinx people. It's important for us to have a melting pot because that's really what heaven is going to look like. And I'm glad that we were intentional and successful in doing that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Orlando, because Ryan, that's one of the things that he definitely brought to the table. Even in you mentioned it's not just record and shoot, it making sure that we appeared visually inclusive, that it wasn't just what we were saying in our voices, but because we are visual with our content, is making sure that we express that on camera. And I would say the other non-negotiable that we have experienced some is balancing quality with the production to what can we realistically do. Orlando has brought that to the table as well as, and some of our other team members really pushing. We have to make sure we don't want this to be cell phone church is what one of them called it. So that one of the non-negotiables is just a quality. At what level do we either not do it because we can't reach the quality, or do we need to elevate it to bump that?
Tell me a little bit about how you facilitate that then, because for a lot of folks who are kind of on the front lines of doing digital ministry, like that production piece, that can be a bar to entry, right? Where they are asking that question of like, well, can I do it well? Is it enough for me just to, FaceTime on my cell phone and post something? So how are you facilitating in an accessible way people to be able to do these kind of quality productions?
We are holding in tension what is possible, what is okay to be done with a cell phone. Reels, a lot of the Instagram type posts, stories, perfectly fine to do with a cell phone. Actually, that is the better way to do it. But then whenever we're doing our worship, we want to make sure that we have that intentionality of letting people know this is a value to us, and this is a value to us because we love you and we want to do that with quality. And so we are very fortunate that Orlando can work a camera. We've brought on another team member who has some broadcasting experience, and so she is able to help. Our worship leader, who gives a lot of input to that part, has some experience. And so the way that we are doing it as a church startup, because you're right, that can very quickly run a budget down to the ground, is doing what we can and then knowing when we need to raise our hand and say, hey, we're just going to have to put some money towards this. And so we've got a guy that we are in partnership with, and he helps put things together. And it's actually one of the things that I've just learned, trying to put together a service.
So that was very valuable what Jessica just said. In addition to that, I want to take it a step back further and talk about her being a visionary resource who, when she heard that the conference was moving in the direction of us establishing an online church, she made sure that we had the necessities in terms of equipment, having a Mac laptop or MacBook, having at least a couple cameras that we can film from different angles, having lighting and microphones and sound equipment to make sure that we could effectively capture that. So again, different people will have different budgets, but we made sure through Jessica's leadership that we had the essential pieces in place. And then we also made sure that those pieces had a degree of portability. Now, what does that mean? That means that we don't always have to film at our conference location. We talked about engaging various players from across the North Georgia footprint, which means that we're going to identify shoot days or film days that we can go out in the Central West. We can go out in the Northeast. We can go out to the central south part of our district or conference and engage resources to give more voices, more diversity, and more visibility. And the reason why we're able to do that is because she was wise enough to make sure we had portable equipment that we can capture ministry from a wide variety of places and angles.
Hey there, church leader. Protecting the vulnerable in our communities is a key charge of our calling. And the changing landscape of how we are relating with one another means that we need to keep up to date on evolving policies and practices for safety. Well, Safer Sanctuaries, Nurturing Trust Within Faith Communities, is a new and comprehensive resource that continues the tradition of Safe Sanctuaries ministry by building on the trusted policies and procedures that have guided churches over the past 25 years. This resource contains theological grounding for the work of abuse prevention, psychological insights about abuse and abuse prevention, basic guidelines for risk reduction, age level specific guidance, and step-by-step instructions on how to develop, revise, update, and implement an abuse prevention plan in your church or organization. For Christians, resisting evil and doing justice are ways that we live and serve Jesus Christ. Safer Sanctuaries provides helps to do just that by framing this work as a life-giving, community-enhancing, and proactive endeavor. It enables communities to be empowered and flourish as they develop and implement policies and procedures that make everyone safer. To learn more, go to safersanctuaries.org or call 800-972-0433. 800-972-0433. And now, back to our session. Well, in talking about kind of spreading a wide net, has there been one, app or a piece of tech or equipment of some kind that has really kind of enabled you to throw the wide net in terms of reaching people with the existence of the Harbor UMC?
That's a great question. And to be completely honest, I think we use wisdom to be able to leverage some of the existing channels that people are most common with, those being YouTube, where we house our archives and invite people to stream on demand, that being Instagram, where we can not only remind people that we're streaming, but we can share snippets using the live function. And of course, Facebook is an opportunity to reach multiple generations using that technologies. Now, down the line, there will be opportunities for us to expand. And I remember, and Jessica could chime in on this perhaps, when we sat down with that first visioning session, we brainstormed about a lot of different applications that we could use and approaches that we could take. But we wanted to make sure that upon introducing the foundation of who we are and what we were doing, we needed to go with some established channels and then perhaps inject some additional tools along the way.
I was laughing there because you said wisdom. I was like, oh, I don't know that app.
No.
Yes. I know an app.
Actual
I'm an app.
wisdom.
Yes.
Right. Look, we need to create that one.
Right. I would say, too, for our internal housekeeping things, the way that we have stayed in connection with the team, we've used Slack. What we like about that is that we can create so many channels that way we don't totally lose conversations and we can kind of follow through along on the thread. In ways of technology, I know this is going to sound crazy, the iPhone. I can do so much with that. I can sit in car line and create a graphic. I would say that piece has been the most invaluable. This has to go with us everywhere because it's how I stay connected with the team. It's how, we talked about that Reels piece, being able to do that. So I would say that is also as crazy as it sounds. And then microphones that are able to go are really good. Earbuds. I use a $60 microphone. I can't think of the name of it. I'll try to get it to you so that you can put it out to those that are listening. But it just connects to my iPhone, and that has been really good for just quick videos. And then talking about apps, we are not on TikTok yet, and we are purposely not on TikTok because it's not something that we can sustainably do at the moment. But we know that that is a piece that when we get there is going to be really good for us for the content that we're wanting to share.
You know, in a lot of churches, there's a pathway, I don't know, maybe you would call it a pathway to discipleship, but at least a pathway of involvement that kind of starts with a church marketing message that invites people to worship. And then from worship, people are invited into a next step group, like a small group or a Bible study, and then invited into leadership. Has the Harbor evolved far enough where there's kind of a deliberate pathway into involvement like that?
We have not gotten that far down the road for where we want to go, but there is a clear discipleship path that we are intentionally working to establish. The Bible studies we wanted to start from the very beginning because we wanted people to know immediately, especially those that are already familiar with church, that there's a place for you to grow. There's a place for you to dig into this faith stuff, to wrestle, to be able to be transformed as a community, as a group. So that from the very start, one of the things I'd love to play with this summer is doing some asynchronous Bible studies where we do a Bible reading plan, and then we can just connect with each other through a thread and even post online. Share something that you've learned this week as we're reading Luke. And so encouraging that kind of discipleship is really the next step. And then eventually what we would love to see and what we're working on as a conference are these lighthouse churches where we have maybe an area where there's not a UMC or maybe no church at all. And these communities can come together. They can use some of our content. They can gather together for Bible study. And then for us at the Harbor, it's really important that we don't leave out that service piece. And so my goal is that by fall, we are introducing service opportunities of here is how you can put boots on the ground and really live out faith together and faith in our community where we love and serve our neighbors. So while we're not quite there yet, it is very much what streams where we're going. And there is a piece where at the end of every service, we have a so what. Why is this message important? What do we have? Why are we talking about Jesus? Why are we talking about breath prayers or whatever it is? And then we give here's how you can live that out this week where you are. And we have what's called a manifest that is available that they can just download. It comes up in the service in a moment, and it's just a graphic. They can download it, save it to their phone, and it has something at the bottom that also gives an opportunity for them to do something in the upcoming week. Because for us, it's very important that we learn how to do this 24/7, not just the one or two times that the service is going.
Talk to me a little bit about service in the digital church. What do you envision that looking like?
Yeah, I think for me, part of what it looks like is partnering with churches that are already doing something, who are maybe like if Orlando's got a service day, saying, hey, everybody go to Douglasville and we're going to serve and do whatever it is that Orlando's doing. Because y'all, that guy, if you're in Douglasville and you're listening, Bright Star is where you want to be, because that guy is always out in the community doing things, loving his neighbor. But that's what service looks like, is showing up with other people. And then maybe you don't have a group of people and you're looking for ideas, and we help you find those ideas. Orlando, you want to add some to that?
Absolutely. Picking up on the technology culture. If you remember, during the past several years, even during the pandemic, you would periodically see challenges that pop up on social media. One of the things that comes to mind is the milk crate challenge during the pandemic, where people were climbing milk crates. Well, I think we have an opportunity to have service challenges. Perhaps is share love. Challenge people to share love this week. Maybe the next week it's give hope. Maybe it's help someone who's in need of help, or be present with someone. For example, we can issue a challenge to be present, and that may mean going to a local school and reading storybooks to some of the younger kids. It may mean going to a senior citizens home and playing games with them. It may mean partnering with churches within your community, not even necessarily United Methodist churches, but to do a community cleanup day. So we have a wide variety of options to leverage our technology platform to inspire people to connect in the real world and do positive things.
And I would add that one of the things with that is also just acknowledging and knowing that there are some people who are only going to be online because they're homebound, because they can't go out, maybe for many reasons. And so service for them may be writing a card, maybe sending, maybe making a phone call, sending out a text. And so we try to be mindful of those opportunities as well and go at a rate that people can go. Because while we love service, while Orlando and I would be full-time missionaries if we could, we know that not everyone is able to go at that rate. And so that is one of the things that we really try to balance is where are people and how give them a wide range of things that they can do, which is what we want to provide in the future too, is just a wide range of experiences for those that come into our community.
You've named service as part of the community life of the Harbor UMC. What does the rhythm of Harbor UMC look like on a weekly basis? For most churches, it's like, hey, we have Sunday worship and we have midweek Bible study and, maybe our monthly service outreach projects. What does the Harbor move through on a week-to-week basis?
That is a great question and something that we're still establishing. We've only just started services only a couple of weeks in. What we're working on for the rhythm to be is that we have this opportunity that you can worship with us Thursday or Sunday, or really any other time after that. But if you want to be with us live, we have this worship opportunity. You have your so what that we invite you to share with us what you've done throughout the week. And then on Monday, Tuesday, we do a sermon remix, a 3 to 4 minute, just quick talk with the pastor whoever preached that week. Hey, you mentioned like this. You mentioned service. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Something that they didn't necessarily do a deep dive in the service that they can do with us. And then offering some inspirational posts, offering some humor. People love to laugh. And I think that sometimes as the church world, we forget that we love laughter. And I believe that God is joyful and God delights. And so we want that to be a part of the rhythm of finding some ways to incorporate some of the funny things that happen with church life. And so the rhythm, we're still establishing it. But that's really the hope, is just this doing life in a way that doesn't feel interrupted, I think would probably be what I would say for what we want our rhythm to look like, in a way that doesn't jostle or jolt your day, but that comes alongside in such a way that makes people glad that it's there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. And then also, as Jessica mentioned, we are in the process of introducing multiple Bible study opportunities and having a routine for that. And one of the things I'd also like to see is, and we've had some discussion about this, but formally roll out. In the past, I've had experience doing what's called social studies, SOULCIAL, which is really SOCIAL. Social meaning is going to enrich your soul, but social provides a connection point. We've done things in the past like having a snapshot photography small group. And the way that operates, you can come together in a digital place in a meeting room, share a few scriptures. For example, one week we might talk about love. Another week we might talk about laughter. We might talk about light. We may talk about color. Share scriptures related to that, and then invite people to go out that week and take photographs of things that remind them of that topic, and then to share them using a hashtag or tagging us. And that way we can mobilize and share, and then come back and talk about what we experienced during that process. That's something that we can engage in a hybrid format, where you have some people who may want to gather locally and do it, but also people who are dispersed in various neighborhoods or communities. They can do it, and then we can connect in common using our digital platform and digital channels via hashtags and meeting rooms. So that's something I look forward to us incorporating. And you can do that format with cooking. You can do it with maybe paint classes or art classes where you can share inspiration, then ask people to paint something, and maybe at the end of the meeting they can show what they painted, or even things like poetry. Have a scripture or theme and give people a few minutes to create something and share. So again, the digital platform allows us to do so much. And I think what helps us, and this is going to sound crazy, what's going to help us if more of us stop thinking like a church and think about, well, what will be a good activity that I can engage with people? And then how could I experience God while we do this?
Yeah. I think that's that hit me. As I got a Facebook group that's languishing a little bit in terms of engagement. Like, what would it look like if I just dropped a challenge on Monday and be like, hey, this week, go out and find something that represents to you blank. And it would be wonderful if, it was a reflection of the Sunday sermon, or what a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's talk future vision just for a quick second. Is the vision for the Harbor UMC to kind of be an airport in a sense for new church startups? So it sounds like you do have a long-term vision of starting with the digital and then as people coalesce together, maybe forming local in-person, or however you want to term that, congregation. So is that really the long-term vision for the Harbor UMC, to just give birth to lots of those?
I would say that while it's not a named vision of what we want to do, one of the things that we are seeing is a need, and we're growing in fresh expressions. And so what really, instead of an airport, it would be more of a partnership of how can we come alongside what you're doing, and how can we help people find it and support it. And so we definitely want to partner with what's going on in our conference. As churches are starting up, we'd love to be able to help. Maybe it might be at the beginning providing some content, that we might have some smaller churches that may need to go to some simulcast type things where maybe they stream our service and then they have a Bible study or a devotion type moment afterwards. And so we are definitely here to be a partner to what's happening in our conference.
I do have one last question for you, and that it's a pretty simple one for people who just want to take like the first step into the Harbor UMC. Where is the right spot to do that?
The right spot to do that is on Facebook, and send us a DM. Let us know that you're there, and let us know that how we can connect. Because one of the things, anytime someone reaches out to me, I automatically ask them, or I tell them what we are, and then I say, what do you need? What do you want from us? How can we be partners in this? How can we be in community together? Because we're still learning and we're still growing. And as you've heard from Orlando and myself, we have so much hope and excitement about what's to come. And that is best done and worked out when we're informed by the people that are there with us. So Facebook, send us an email. If you want to just kind of edge in and we would never know you're there, you can find us at live.theharborumc.com for our church service on Thursday or Sunday evening.
Perfect. All right. Well, y'all, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap up this session of Pastoring in the Digital Parish. It's our first of season 6, many great episodes and sessions to come. If you're ready to do some catch up, a good follow up to this episode is one that's called Planting Digital First. It's with Mike Wang of Oikon Church. Or if you've already heard that one, then season 4 is Leading a Church's Vision in Digital Ministry. It's also on point. Again, I'm Ryan Dunn. I'd like to thank resourceumc.org, the online destination for leaders throughout the United Methodist Church. They make this podcast possible. And of course, they host our website, pastoringinthedigitalparish.com, where you can find more online resources for ministry. Also want to thank Safer Sanctuaries for their support. Again, Safer Sanctuaries, nurturing trust within faith communities, is a new and comprehensive resource that continues the tradition of Safe Sanctuaries ministry by building on its trusted policies and procedures. This resource contains theological grounding for the work of abuse prevention, basic guidelines for risk reduction, age-level specific guidance, and step-by-step instructions on how to develop, revise, update, and implement an abuse prevention plan. Find more at safersanctuaries.org. If you want to connect with me and the team of Pastoring in the Digital Parish, then check out our Pastoring in the Digital Parish group on Facebook. You can also send me questions and ideas for future sessions at digitalparish@umcom.org. That's the email address, by the way. Another session is coming out next week. Woohoo! In the meantime, peace.